Hey guys, my name is Bailey B. Wilson, and this is the very first episode of Echo and Opinion. This is a space where I listen to podcasts that I love, reflect on what I heard, and craft my takeaways, all while doing something with my hands. And in this episode's case, makeup. Now, for this episode, I'll be sharing my thoughts on IMO, a podcast hosted by the amazing First Lady Michelle Obama and her brother, Craig Robinson. This episode that we're diving into is called How to Manage and Grow Changing Friendships. And it also features Issa Rae, who brings her own experience and perspective to the conversation. You'll know Issa Rae by her show that she created on HBO called Insecure. And if you are an OG fan like me, you remember her YouTube series titled Awkward Black Girl. This podcast is thoughtful, grounded, and honestly so well done. So let's get into this episode. Since this episode is about friendship, I thought it'd be a really good idea for us to actually define the word friendship. And I have my computer right here with all of my notes and my definitions, so I'm going to read it off for you. According to Merriam-Webster, friendship is defined as the state of being friends, the quality or state of being friendly, and the third one is aid. And the word aid really stopped me because it's not a passive word. It's very action-based. It requires effort and emotional labor. And I really feel like we should keep that word in mind as this conversation progresses. And another word that I wanted to look up is friend, and I'm going to read it off for you. One attached to another by affection or esteem. That is the first definition. And of course, there are more definitions, but I'm sure that you did not click on this episode so you could hear me read the dictionary. So we're going to move forward. Cool? This is how this episode's going to work. I will be doing my makeup while we're talking, but to keep everything flowing and to stop you guys from watching me struggle through my eyeliner, I'll be switching over to a voiceover format after the next part. I'll still be talking and reflecting and going deep, but you guys may also hear me react to my makeup. And just to give you a heads up, I am a 2016 makeup girly who has not really done her makeup, at least to today's standards, very well. So it may turn out great or it may not. But it's going to be an experience and we're just chatting. So let's get into it before we make that next shift. In this episode of IMO, they are responding to a listener letter that was sent in involving friendship by someone named Eva. And I'm going to go over to my handy dandy computer and read that letter off to you guys. I met my friend Kristen through a male friend of mine who she briefly dated. That relationship did not last, but Kristen and I stayed friends. If I'm being honest though, my friendship with Kristen felt a little unbalanced from the start. I felt like friendships should be effortless. Like both sides naturally want to spend time together, check in, and show up for each other. But I noticed right away that Kristen wanted to make plans pretty often. I'm a people pleaser. And I had a hard time saying no to her invites when my schedule was already a little bit too busy with other friend hangs or dates. And when it came to my dating in particular, she had pretty strong opinions about what I was doing wrong. I'm not perfect by any stretch, but I do have strong instincts, and I like to trust my gut rather than take advice like this from friends. Still, over time, I really came to respect Kristen. She's incredibly thoughtful, and it's a pretty special thing to have someone so much in your corner. We started to go on day trips together, and I genuinely appreciated our quality time together over the years. Nice. Recently, though, Kristen lost a close family member, and when I sent a text checking in, I got an unexpected text back saying she wanted to stop communicating with me. She said people who were not nearly as close with her had been a lot more supportive. She felt the imbalance in our friendship and wanted it to be over. Honestly, I did not see this coming. I knew our friendship was complicated, but I felt like I was being myself, and it was not enough. Ideally, I wanted to continue our friendship as it was, even if it wasn't innately easy or perfect. But now I'm worried I'm a bad friend. Adult friendships are not family, and they're not romantic partners, but they are people we love, and I did not enjoy hurting her, especially when I felt like I was just being myself. How do you maintain healthy friendships if there is an imbalance in expectations? Is it possible? What do adult friends owe each other? Thanks for your thoughts. Eva. So, Issa Rae, in this episode, after hearing this, she said that took a lot of turns. And quite frankly, I concur. There's a lot going on here. And this is a lot to unpack. But you know what? That's what we're here for. We're gonna go ahead and chat. So I'm gonna switch over to the voiceover format, and you guys can see me do a Casper the Ghost impression with 2016 eyebrows. So stay tuned and watch me beat my face. Okay, so you guys are now seeing me put on this primer all over my face. And just so you know, I have already washed my face as well as moisturized. So I'm just slathering this all over in preparation for my Casper impersonation, as well as my illustrious 2016 eyebrows. But now that you've heard Eva's story, let's dive into where things really started to get complicated. I personally don't believe the imbalance started when Kristen was grieving. I think it started way earlier. In fact, I think it started right at the beginning, when Eva admitted the friendship felt unbalanced from the start. During the podcast, Issa Rae noted that it almost sounded like Eva didn't really want the friendship in the first place. And that's a feeling a lot of us can probably relate to. So many of us fall into relationships, platonic or otherwise, without ever checking in on what we want. And when we don't check in, we don't express expectations. Sometimes it's because of people pleasing. Other times it could be past trauma. And sometimes people choose to withhold what they want from a relationship because they know if they say it out loud too early, they'll get a no instead of what they really want, which is a yes. Here's the thing. People pleasing feels good in the moment, but it can quietly create resentment, not just towards the other person, but also towards yourself. I'm going to tell you guys a little story. I once had a woman who I worked with who asked me to be her travel friend. Not a full-on friend, not even a friend that she traveled with, but just someone that she could reach out to for travel information and for tips. And quite frankly, I was a little taken aback. I was a little offended and honestly just a little bit hurt. Because did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? Did I offend you in some way that you're not communicating? We're laughing, we're joking, we're having a good time, we're vibing, we're on the same page. Why is it that suddenly you want me to be your travel friend specifically, and not a friend that you can travel with, but someone that you can reach out to get information from, and that's it? And again, I was a little hurt, but honestly, I actually appreciate that kind of honesty. That clarity gave me the power to decide if I was okay with that kind of relationship. Mr. Robinson said that female relationships and male relationships are different because male relationships are very transactional. So, using that train of thought, it gave me some options. I could say, okay, cool, I'm your travel friend. What kind of friend can you be to me? Or I could say, honestly, sis, it sounds like you need a travel agent, so maybe you should go on Google, or better yet, you could pay me for my time and for my information. I could also say, yeah, I'm okay with that. That's cool, let's exchange numbers. Or another option is, no, I'm actually not okay with that, and I'm not looking for those types of relationships at this point in my life, but best of luck. But I only had that option because she gave me clarity from jump, which was completely missing in Eva and Kristen's case. So I have some questions for you guys. Have you ever said yes when you should have said no? Have you ever stayed in a relationship where you kept lying to yourself about how you really felt? Okay, so you guys just saw me fighting with this color corrector palette, and whoever designed the little stickers on these palettes to make sure that the makeup doesn't open, you did a good job. You did a great job, because the way that I just fought with this thing to open it, I know this video was sped up for the purpose of time, but I'm just gonna be for real. I did not like, I was very much ready to say, you know what, I'm gonna go take a nap. Like, let's stop now. I was not interested in continuing, so you did a great job with this. Congratulate yourself. A round of applause for whoever designed these things. Also, I'm noticing now that my eyebrows are not, they're not the same. Like, I think at certain angles they look great, or with more makeup on, they look a little bit different or better. But at this point, they look a little mismatched. Like, I know they're supposed, like, people say, oh, they're supposed to be sisters, not twins. My eyebrows look like cousins. It just like, you could tell, like, one of them is thicker than the other one, one looks straighter than the other one, and I don't think they look necessarily bad. One of them just looked like it got a little hump on it. So maybe not cousins, but maybe like some, my sister was stolen at birth type thing, and you guys found each other in adulthood. Ciao. Anyway, let's talk about that moment when Kristen lost a loved one. Just to get back on track, Eva sent a text checking in, and Kristen replied saying she wanted to end the friendship. That hit pretty hard. But what it shows is that emotional expectations were already misaligned. Kristen expected a deeper kind of presence, and Eva felt like just being herself should have been enough. Issa Rae talks in this episode about how one of the hardest friendship breakups she ever had came after a similar moment. She and a friend were in college when that friend lost a parent, and Issa admitted she didn't know how to show up. She didn't have the tools yet. No one in their friend group had dealt with or experienced losing a parent at that point in their lives. And not only that, but at the same time this was happening, her career was on the rise, and she felt like this friend was not really that supportive. But sometimes people don't respond how we want them to, not because they don't care, but because they're overwhelmed, under equipped, or in crisis themselves. And sometimes they have other things going on where they can't be 100% what we need them to be, because they have their own lives that they also have to tend to. I personally had a friendship end during one of the hardest times of my life, or at least a hard period of my life. I was in the middle of some health stuff, some job stuff, some family stuff. There was a lot of stuff. And my friend was supposed to be there for me. And at this point, I was panicked, I was emotionally shut down, and I just had so much fear. And when she couldn't, I panicked. And I ended up saying something that I regret. And of course, I did apologize for. And it came from a place of fear, but for her, it was a betrayal. Now, in hindsight, I realized that we were both carrying unspoken expectations. She also had things going on in her life that I couldn't even see because I was so in my own panic. But sometimes those unspoken expectations can become silent deal breakers. So, what do we actually owe our friends in crisis? What do our friends owe us in crisis? When do we need to ask for what we need? And when can we offer what we can, if we can offer anything at all? Okay, so at this point, you should see me putting on my cream bronzer. Now, I wish I could say what bronzer it is, but the little sticker that was on it came off and I don't remember. But I'm putting this on and I've also put on my concealer and I am just blending everything out. And honestly, now that I'm going back and editing it, everything doesn't look as bad as I thought it did. There are definitely some points that I'm watching this video and further in the video that I'm watching and I'm like, that wasn't that bad. And some things I'm like, girlfriend. But overall, not horrible, or at least from what I'm looking at right now. But one thing I'm noticing is that I don't really know what I'm doing with these brushes. Like you see these videos with makeup artists or anyone that does makeup more often than I do, and they have very specific brushes and they know what those brushes uses are. Personally, I have no idea what these brushes uses are. I'm just picking them because they look like they'll get the job done and because they're not dirty. But you know what? Let's get into our conversation and talk about what happens when friendships change or even end. Eva says that she didn't see it coming, and quite frankly, I believe her. This relationship was okay, complicated, but okay by her standards. But I also think that Kristen had been feeling the shift long before she spoke up. People don't usually walk away unless something's been brewing for a while. Like this relationship is like death by 1,000 or 1,000,000 paper cuts. People don't usually walk away because of one thing, but sometimes that one thing can happen and it implodes everything. But usually it's something that builds up over time and you finally say something. And not only that, but Kristen was grieving, and grief can bring up a lot, not just sadness, but also reflection. And sometimes it shows us which relationships feel real and which ones feel conditional. Our lives are so finite, and when things happen, not to us, but with people that we love or anything that happens in our life, you have a tendency to look at your life and see what fits and what doesn't. And if it doesn't fit, why is it still there? But sometimes we don't want to admit that. Sometimes we're afraid to be the one to walk away. So we stay in these relationships that don't feel safe or mutual. And sometimes, honestly, we are just not each other's people. And that is okay. In fact, that is profoundly okay, especially if you figure that out really early on before you've invested so much time into other people. Not everyone is meant to walk with us forever. Some people are only in our lives for a reason or for a season, but not always for the long haul. And again, that's okay. People change, people grow apart, family dies, new jobs, new placements, you end up other places, and sometimes relationships just end. So, what you do, you grieve the relationship, you take what you learned, and you go on with your life, still wishing that person the best, whether it ended great or it didn't, but you just move on because that is what life is. But I do have a question considering who in your life, if you do have anyone in your life, are you clinging to out of history or guilt or anything else rather than just mutual connection? Do you want to speak up? Or are you afraid to pull the trigger on something that you know but not really want to admit? Now, at this point in the video, I'm watching myself further attempt to do my makeup or at least attempt to apply everything correctly. And I want to give myself a pat on the back because the fact that I was trying to do all this while talking to you guys about my thoughts and my feelings, especially through this eyeliner. Oh my gosh, I am struggling. And just so you guys know, I don't usually struggle so much with my eyeliner. Before, I would be using this super amazing eyeliner pen that worked so well for me, but that pen ran out. It was my first time using it, And I don't remember the name of the company that I bought it from. So I'm attempting to use this eyeliner pencil that was actually meant for smudging and using a brush that looks sharp to try to mimic the effect this liquid pen eyeliner would have. And it is not working. And I'm just so happy that I didn't try to do all of this on camera, because when I tell you, I would have just stopped talking or I would have gotten lost. But we're going to move forward with one of Eva's questions when she asked, what do adult friends owe each other? And that's a really big one. Unlike romantic relationships, adult friendships don't always have clearly defined rules. But that doesn't mean that there are no expectations. We owe each other honesty, care, respect, spoken boundaries, and when possible, reciprocity. And I want to pause here and say that reciprocity does not always mean equality. In this episode, Miss Obama mentioned that sometimes she is a friend with more resources. So maybe she's the one hosting or giving more. And just to put that in perspective, this is Miss Michelle Obama, or First Lady Michelle Obama. So this is a big deal for her. And not only that, but she also mentioned that she had to put a lot more effort into her relationships because she's the first lady. She has first lady duties. She's in the White House. So I believe she said something along the lines that her friends didn't want to bother her with their problems or anything going on in their life because she obviously had a very full plate. Even then, she did do the best that she could in her relationships, and she would host and be there and everything else. But one thing that they did mention as far as reciprocity and equality is the point of intention. Even I have had friendships where sometimes my pockets were just a little bit deeper and I was the one paying, and they would do something back in another way that I knew that they couldn't do for me, and that was fine. But the point is that they were doing something. It's the intention, because you create a really bad imbalance in your relationship if one friend is always giving and giving and giving and giving and the other one is always receiving. So you have to put something back into your relationships. Otherwise, it's just going to be this really bad imbalance. So that's why I'm going on to say that love and effort do come back in different ways. But healthy adult friendships are more about intention than about perfection. Because you don't need to be perfect, but you need to do something. And also, it's about saying yes when you mean to say yes, and saying no when you mean to say no, and also letting people meet you and see you, the real you, so they can actually choose you and you can have your people that actually want to be in your life versus some version of you that you've created to be liked or to be loved or anything, or when some people only like you because of what you offer them. So, what do you believe makes a healthy friendship? What are your must haves? What are your boundaries? So, when friendships end, we don't just grieve the other person, we grieve the version of ourselves we were with them. I've had friendships end that made me sit with some really hard truths about myself. Sometimes I was avoidant. Sometimes I said yes when I meant to say no. Times I wasn't honest, hoping silence would keep the peace. Talking helped, and so did time. And I've learned this. Every new relationship reveals more about who you are and what you still need to grow through. Learning is one thing. Putting it into practice, that's where the real work is. So when you enter new relationships, bring what you've learned. Be upfront, set boundaries, be real, and let people choose you. and not a filtered version of you. Because if someone only loves the mask, they never really loved you. And if you're out here people pleasing just to stay liked, they don't even know you. You deserve to be chosen for who you are. So that's my take on Eva's letter, this episode of IMO, and what it stirred up for me. Friendship can be beautiful, but it's not effortless, and it requires honesty, presence, and courage. I don't believe Eva was a bad friend, but by keeping her feelings to herself, she took something important away from Kristen, the chance to make her own decisions. I get it. Sometimes we're unsure or afraid to hurt someone, but the longer you stay silent, the more someone else gives without knowing the truth. If Eva wasn't sure about the friendship, she had every right to feel that way, but Kristen had every right to know. When we take away someone's clarity, we take away their power to choose. And that's not love, that's fear. We all fall short, but when someone has been close to you, you owe them honesty. Say the hard thing, even if it ends something. Let people walk away on their terms, not in confusion. So this is the final look, guys. I'm not really sure if I love it or if I hate it. A part of me feels like I need to call. Another part feels like I need to hee, And honestly, it feels just as unbalanced as Kristen and Eva's relationship is. But let me know what you think of the episode. Do you think that Kristen was acting abruptly, or was it a final straw? Do you think that Eva was a bad friend? Have you had friendships like this where you felt like things were unbalanced? And if so, what did you do? If your relationships ended, what did you learn? Let me know in the comments. Also, guys, go check out IMO's podcast. It's really great. And you can see First Lady Obama again. And I promise this podcast is really, really great. I'm a huge fan. And if you want to see more content like this, not specifically makeup, but more content like this just in general, or anything else that I'm doing and putting on my channel, please go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Bye-bye.